The rain came down in sheets, blurring the world outside Jack Harper's pickup truck. He gripped the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield as the wipers fought a losing battle. His daughter, Lily, sat in the back seat, humming softly to herself, her small hands clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. At 6 years old, she was the only light in Jack's life, a beacon through the storm of his struggles. The dashboard clock glowed 9:17 p.m. They were late. Again. His shift at the diner had run long, and the babysitter would be tapping her foot by now. Highway 17 stretched dark and lonely, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the Indiana countryside. Jack's truck rattled over a pothole, and he muttered under his breath. The tires were bald, the brakes squeaky, and the gas gauge hovered near empty. Payday was 3 days away, and his wallet held exactly $12.63. He'd already skipped lunch to save for Lily's school supplies. Her teacher had sent a note about a field trip, $15 per kid, and Jack hadn't figured out how to swing it yet. He never let Lily see him worry, though. She deserved better than that. A flash of red caught his eye up ahead. A car pulled onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly through the downpour. Someone stood beside it, a shadowy figure hunched against the rain. Jack's first instinct was to keep driving. He was late, exhausted, and had Lily to think about. But something tugged at him, a quiet voice in his chest. He'd been stranded before, back when his wife, Sarah, was still alive, and a stranger had stopped to help. That small act had meant everything. "Daddy, why are we slowing down?" Lily's voice piped up, curious. "Someone's in trouble, kiddo," Jack said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "Gonna see if they need a hand." Lily nodded, her big brown eyes trusting. "Like a superhero?" Jack chuckled, though it felt hollow. "Yeah, something like that." He pulled over, gravel crunching under the tires, and parked a safe distance behind the stranded car, a sleek, black sedan that looked wildly out of place on this back road. Jack grabbed his toolbox from the passenger seat, a battered metal case he'd inherited from his dad. "Stay here, Lily. Keep the doors locked, okay?" "Okay, Daddy." "Be careful." He stepped into the rain, the cold soaking through his flannel shirt in seconds. The figure by the sedan was a woman, her dark hair plastered to her face, her jacket drenched. She was wrestling with a lug wrench, her hands slipping as she tried to loosen a flat tire. The sedan's rear left wheel was shredded, a jagged gash in the rubber. "Need some help?" Jack called, raising his voice over the storm. The woman startled, turning to face him. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp features softened by the rain. Her eyes, a striking shade of green, held a mix of frustration and wariness. "I've got it," she said, but her voice wavered as the wrench slipped again. Jack stepped closer, keeping his hands visible. "Looks like that tire's fighting back. I've changed a few in my time. Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, glancing at his truck, then back at him. Something in his face, maybe the tired lines around his eyes or the way he stood, unthreatening, seemed to ease her guard. "All right," she said finally. "If you're sure." Jack knelt by the wheel, the gravel biting into his knees. The lug nuts were rusted, stubborn. He worked the wrench with steady force, his hands calloused from years of manual labor. "Name's Jack," he said, trying to make conversation. "You from around here?" "Clara," she replied, her voice clipped. "And no, just passing through." He nodded, sensing she wasn't in the mood for small talk. The rain kept falling, soaking his hair and dripping down his neck. The first lug nut gave way with a groan, then the second. Clara watched, arms crossed, shivering slightly. Jack noticed her shoes, sleek heels, impractical for a night like this. Whoever she wasn't used to back roads or breakdowns. "You got a spare in the trunk?" he asked, loosening the last nut. "Yeah, I think so." Clara popped the trunk and pulled out a spare tire, struggling with its weight. Jack moved to help, but she waved him off. "I can manage." He had a smile. She was stubborn, he'd give her that. Together, they got the spare in place. Jack tightened the new bolts, checking each one twice. "Should hold you till you get to a shop," he said, standing and wiping his hands on his jeans. "Nearest one's in Shelbyville, about 10 miles up the road." Clara nodded, her expression softening. "Thank you." "Really? I didn't expect." She trailed off, gesturing at the rain, the road, him. "You didn't have to stop." Jack shrugged. "Couldn't just drive by. You do the same, right?" Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "Maybe." She reached into her purse, pulling out a slim wallet. "Let me pay you for your trouble." "Nah, I'm good," Jack said, waving a hand. "Just get home safe." She frowned, clearly not used to being turned down. At least take something. For gas, or... Really, it's fine. He glanced back at his truck, where Lily's face was pressed against the window, watching. Gotta get my kid home. You take care, Clara. Before she could argue, he jogged back to his truck, the rain masking the ache in his knees. He climbed in, shaking water from his hair. Lily grinned at him. You fixed it. Yup, he said, starting the engine. All good. As he pulled back onto the highway, Clara's sedan passed them, her taillights fading into the storm. Jack figured that was the end of it. Just another night, another small kindness. He didn't know then that he'd just changed his life. The next morning, Jack woke to the usual chaos. Lily was sprawled on the couch in their tiny apartment, eating dry cereal from a bowl and watching cartoons. The sink was full of dishes, and a stack of bills glared at him from the kitchen counter. Rent was due in a week, and the numbers weren't adding up. He'd been picking up extra shifts at the diner, but tips were thin, and the mechanic shop where he'd worked before Sarah's cancer diagnosis had long since downsized. At 34, Jack felt like he was running out of time to give Lily the life she deserved. He dropped her off at school, promising to pick her up for the field trip deposit, then headed to the diner. The breakfast rush was brutal, truckers grumbling about coffee, locals gossiping about the county fair. Jack was wiping down the counter when the bell above the door jingled. He glanced up and froze. Clara stood in the doorway, looking nothing like the drenched stranger from last night. Her hair was dry and sleek, her tailored coat screaming money. She scanned the diner, her eyes locking on Jack. The other waitress, Margie, raised an eyebrow at him, but he barely noticed. Clara crossed the room, her heels clicking on the linoleum. Morning, she said, sliding onto a stool at the counter. You work here? Jack blinked, recovering. Yeah. Coffee. Black, she said, her tone businesslike. And an explanation. He poured her a cup, confused. Explanation for what? Why you stopped last night? Why you wouldn't take money? She leaned forward, studying him like a puzzle. Most people don't do that. Jack shrugged, uncomfortable under her gaze. Didn't seem like a big deal. You were stuck. She sipped her coffee, her eyes never leaving his. It was a big deal to me. He didn't know what to say to that, so he busied himself refilling sugar containers. Clara watched him for a moment, then pulled a card from her purse and slid it across the counter. I'm in town for a few days. If you change your mind about payment, or if you need anything, call me. Jack glanced at the card. Clara Ellison, CEO, Ellison Ventures, no address, just a phone number and an email. He tucked it into his pocket, more to end the conversation than anything else. Thanks, but I'm fine. She gave him that almost smile again, like she knew something he didn't. We'll see. Then she left the 20 on the counter, way too much for a $2 coffee, and walked out. Margie sidled up, whistling low. Who's she? No idea, Jack muttered, but the card in his pocket felt heavier than it should. Over the next week, Jack's life stayed its usual grind. He scraped together the field trip money by skipping his own groceries, and Lily came home beaming with a permission slip signed. But the truck's brakes started grinding, and the landlord left a voicemail about late fees. Jack ignored Clara's card, telling himself he didn't need charity. He'd always gotten by on his own. Then Lily got sick. It started as a cough, but by Friday, she was burning with fever. The pediatrician prescribed antibiotics, but the pharmacy bill was $87. Jack's bank account had $42. He sat in the parking lot, head in his hands, the weight of it all crushing him. Sarah would have known what to do. She'd always been the strong one. He pulled out Clara's card, staring at it for a long time. It felt like giving up, but Lily needed him. He dialed the number. Clara Ellison, came her voice, crisp and professional. It's Jack. From the highway. He swallowed hard. I need help. There was a pause, then her tone softened. Tell me what's going on. He did, the words spilling out Lily's fever, the bills, the truck. He hated every second of it, but Clara listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, I'm sending someone to your address. They'll cover the prescription and bring groceries. No arguments. Clara, I can't. You can, she cut him off. And you will. I owe you. An hour later, a delivery van pulled up with medicine, food, and a note. Call me tomorrow. We need to talk. See? Jack stared at the supplies, his throat tight. He didn't understand why she cared, but for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The next day, Clara asked to meet at a coffee shop in Indianapolis, an hour's drive. Jack left Lily with the babysitter, who was thrilled to hear about the mysterious, rich lady. The coffee shop was upscale, all glass and chrome, and Jack felt out of place in his faded jeans. Clara was already there, a laptop open in front of her. She waved him over. "Lily's better?" she asked, closing the laptop. "Yeah, thanks to you." Jack sat, awkward. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "I looked into you, Jack Harper. Mechanic, widower, single dad. You've had a rough go, but you stopped to help a stranger. That's not nothing." He shifted, uneasy. "You checked up on me?" "I check up on everyone." She said it like it was obvious. "I run a venture capital firm. My job is finding potential." "And you, Jack, have it?" He laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Potential? I'm a diner cook with a busted truck." "You're more than that." She slid a folder across the table. "I'm funding a startup in Shelbyville. Auto repair, eco-friendly tech. They need a lead mechanic with real-world experience. Someone who knows what it's like to scrape by. I want you to run it." Jack stared at the folder, his mind reeling. "I'm not a businessman. I fix cars." "You're a leader," she said firmly. "You raised a kid alone. You kept going after losing your wife. You stopped for me when you had every reason to keep driving. That's who I want." He opened the folder. The salary listed was triple what he made at the diner. There were benefits, health insurance, even a signing bonus. It was enough to move Lily to a better school, to fix the truck, to breathe. But it felt too good to be true. "Why me?" he asked, voice low. "You don't know me." Clara's expression softened, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable. "Because I was you, once. Broke, alone, stuck on the side of the road, figuratively and literally. Someone gave me a chance, and it changed everything. I'm paying it forward." Jack's hand shook as he closed the folder. He thought of Lily, of the future he wanted for her. "I don't know if I can do this." "You can," she said, echoing her words from the phone. "And you won't be alone. I'll be there, mentoring you. So will the team." He looked at her, searching for a catch. There wasn't one. Just a woman who'd seen something in him he'd forgotten was there. "Okay," he said finally. "I'm in." The next year was a whirlwind. Jack took the job, and the startup, a shop called Greenwheel, grew faster than anyone expected. Jack's knack for fixing cars and his quiet, steady leadership won over the team. Clara was true to her word, guiding him through the business side with patience and sharp advice. Lily started at a new school, her cough long gone, her smile brighter than ever. One evening, as Jack locked up the shop, Clara stopped by. She'd become a friend, someone he trusted, though he still didn't fully understand her world of private jets and boardrooms. She handed him a coffee, and they sat on a bench outside, watching the sunset. "You did it," she said, nudging him. "Greenwheel's a success. Investors are calling." "We did it," he corrected. "I was just the guy with the wrench." She laughed, a real laugh, not the guarded one from that first night. "You're more than that, Jack. You always were." He looked at her, the weight of the past year settling in. "You didn't just change my life, Clara. You changed Lily's. I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," she said softly. "That night on the highway. You reminded me what matters." They sat in silence, the sky turning gold. Jack thought of Sarah, of the man he'd been before the grief, the struggle. He wasn't that man anymore, but he was someone new, someone who'd learned that a single act of kindness could ripple further than he'd ever imagined. Lily ran up then, her backpack bouncing, her voice calling for him. Jack stood, ready to take her home. Clara watched them go, a smile on her face, knowing she'd been part of something bigger than money, bigger than success. Something human, something real.